Tonight, Palm Springs city officials are criticizing what they call the state's unequal distribution of CARES Act funds. City officials say California's 13 largest cities are receiving between $85 and $174 per resident. And they say cities like Palm Springs are only receiving about $12 per resident. They wrote a letter to state and federal officials, including Valley Congressman Dr. Raul Ruiz. And tonight, he's responding. Here's what he had to say, among other developments in Washington. Congressman Ruiz, thanks for joining us.
It's good to be here.
The city of Palm Springs recently sent a letter to state and federal lawmakers, including you, pleading for more CARES Act funds for financially struggling cities like Palm Springs. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I can understand why. First of all, Palm Springs in particular took a very big economic hit due to its reliance on the tourism industry. Second of which, the CARES Act did not have direct funding for cities with less than 500 people. So that means that almost all the cities in Riverside County did not get direct funding. They got indirect funding through the state and possibly through the county from the CARES Act, but they still need a lot more.
According to Palm Springs officials, the city of Riverside received $28 million in funds, which is 6 times more funds than all 9 Valley cities combined. Were you aware of that?
That was news to me today. Of course, that the CARES Act, like I said, initially, even before we passed it, that I was going to fight to make sure that cities with less than 500,000 people get their share of funding too. And that's why the HEROES Act, which I advocated, fought for, and passed the House, needs to be voted on in the Senate, because we need to make sure that the firefighters, the teachers, the essential workers from cities in smaller cities, less than 500,000, get some aid as well.
What's the latest from Washington regarding financial relief for millions of Americans? Do you expect anything to get done before the extra $600 in unemployment expires?
You know, I'm going to fight really hard that it does. The good news is that Senator Mitch McConnell and Trump administration are starting to have a epiphany that millions of Americans are about to fall off the unemployment cliff. So they're having conversations about what their aid package will consist of. That means that they will now have to negotiate with House leadership, which has already passed the HEROES Act, which is already a blueprint of what our families, our businesses, and our cities need. And that's why it is so imperative that we turn our focus to the Senate so that they can pass the HEROES Act and give an extra stimulus check to extend the unemployment benefit, and to make sure that cities like Palm Springs, Desert Hot Springs, Cathedral City, Indio, throughout my district, get the funds that they need to help pay their teachers, their first responders, and law enforcement.
What's happening with legislation for burn pits?
Oh, thank you for asking, Peter. You know, when we talk about people who are at risk of dying, we're talking about people who have cancers, respiratory illnesses, autoimmune diseases, and these are exactly the illnesses that our veterans and service members who have been exposed to burn pits are succumbing to right now or becoming permanently disabled. I've introduced a package of bills that will help the veterans get the timely diagnosis, the appropriate care, identify those that are at risk of getting cancers and respiratory illnesses, that would expand the Burn Pit Registry Act, and that will find gaps in the research by the Department of Defense. And we passed that bill today, which included my 4 bills, which are now set to be passed in the Senate and to become law by the president, on top of the other bills that I've gotten signed into law for our burn pits. It's just not right that our veterans are not being recognized for their respiratory illnesses, the cancers that they're succumbing to, like Jennifer Kepner, a resident in Cathedral City who died of pancreatic cancer due to her exposure to these toxic fumes from these military burn pits. And so we need to stand up for them, and these bills will help give them relief and the timely care that they need.
All right, Congressman Ruiz, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.